Hey everyone, welcome to things that have been kind of going on in life for like the last month and a half because I haven't really been around. And a lot of you guys have been asking kind of like what's up and what's going on. Um, and today I want to talk a little bit about mental health and a little bit about PTSD. For those of you guys that don't follow me, I work as a paramedic here in the city. I've been in paramedicine now for a little over 12 years. Um, and I love my job. But about a month and a half ago, just before my birthday this year, actually, um, I got word that the very first supervisor I worked with for the medical company I'm working for now, so about the last 2 years, um, took his own life from probably PTSD related suicide. Um, it was hard. He was an amazing supervisor. At the point that I came back to the company I work for now, I'd been off car for 2 years. I have something called ankylosing spondylitis, and it kind of spiraled out of control. And I took a desk job for 2 years, still working in medicine, but more on the training side than like up front and in person. Um, so I was sort of really rusty by the time that I met him again. And he was amazing. He was upbeat. He was funny. I mean, if you screwed up, absolutely, he'd take you aside and be like, "This is where you screwed up." But it was never like an awful thing. It was like, okay, well, you screwed up, so like let's fix this. I mean, I never got to a place where I screwed up bad enough I ever hurt anybody, obviously. But you know, where I could have improved my care or I missed something I probably should have gotten because it's been 2 years since you've been on the road and talking to people. And as much as you can study them out of a book, a lot of those skills are interpersonal skills and they're not something you can just learn from a textbook. So yeah, and he was really, really wonderful. He was like the highlight of that office. I never went in to go see him. Like I never was friends with him outside of work or anything along those lines. But when he walked in the room, he brightened it up by just being there. And he always had a smile on his face. He was always checking in with us, making sure every one of his staff was okay. Even myself, I only worked as a casual. I wasn't technically part of his team. It didn't matter to him. He was always checking up on people and making sure we were okay. And I haven't been up there in probably 8 months before this happened. But even his crew, like some of his closest friends, had no idea this was coming. Um, and what we need to kind of do is break down some of the stigma that sits around mental health and sits around PTSD and things like that. PTSD is post traumatic stress disorder. In people who work in emergency services, like your police, your fire, your EMS, your first responders, those kind of guys, even security, kind of count into that family. Our corrections officers, things like that, they all kind of need in there. And it's not usually like one singular event that causes people to start to spiral out of control. It's just this long drawn out, like I've been in here 12 years, right? Some of the people that I work with have been doing this full time for that whole 12 years. And it's just sort of this long, constant viewing of all these bad things. You know what I mean? And I don't get me wrong, I love my job and I knew most of what I was getting into when I got into it. But there's no way I can tell you how hard it is to watch somebody die in front of me. And the even harder part that they don't teach you about in school was how to tell their family that we lost them and there's nothing more we can do. I've blissfully not had to do it a lot in my career. There are definitely more people who have done a lot more and seen a lot worse than I have seen. And it leads to this sort of depression that's caused by all of these things that you see. And PTSD is not just some blanket title, like not just, you can't just walk in and be like, I have PTSD. There is a specific set of criteria that has to be met that counts you into being a PTSD person. And in Canada where I live, we're only even just starting to recognize PTSD as being a work-related injury, which seems crazy to everybody that, like, for me personally, like, that seems kind of self-explanatory, especially for those of us that work in emergency services. There's only so many times in a year you can do awful and bad things, or see awful and bad things, obviously not do them, but work a scene that's awful and bad, and still be whole at the end of the day, especially if you're not being taken care of. And there is not a lot of mental health care in Canada. It's one of the places we've really fallen down on. I thankfully don't suffer from PTSD. That being said, for those of you guys that haven't been following me in a while, I do have depression. Mine's different. It's been caused by different things. I'm more angry that my own body won't let me get pregnant. I'm angry that I've lost two babies. I'm sad that I've lost two babies. I'm sad that my family doesn't recognize those two babies as even being babies. And it's a hard, frustrating place to be in. And I let it go for months without going to get treatment. And I know the causes, and I know the symptoms, and I know I should have known further in advance what was going on, but you don't. When you're a person that's depressed, you don't see it. And a lot of people look at mental health and like, well, it's all in your head. I'm going to tell you something. The pain from your broken leg is all in your head. Because your broken leg actually doesn't feel anything. Your broken leg sends messages through nerves back up to your brain that tells your brain, hey, my leg hurts. And then you have pain in your leg. The painkillers that we give you for the leg don't fix your leg. They just make your brain forget that your leg is hurting, right? So everything that you experience in life, be it pain, be it joy, be it happiness, be it sadness, is all in your head. It's always there. Your brain is extremely powerful. And it can completely destroy who you are as a person. It makes you believe that you're not worth it, that you're not important enough, that you would be better off dead, that your kids would be better off without you. It's not coming from a place of selfishness, like, I'm just sad, I don't want to do this anymore, let's just have this over and done with. I'm just going to take a bunch of pills or however you want to do that and be done with it. That's not how suicidal ideation works. Their brain has convinced them that they're not worth the help, that they're not worth their family caring about them anymore. And it's heartbreaking. So we need to kind of break down some of these walls and calling people selfish when they commit suicide, or telling people that depression is just all in their head and they should just be happy. That's not really how it works, right? If you know somebody that works in emergency services, go check on them on a regular basis. Just throw them a text message, give them a phone call, show up at their door randomly and be like, hey, I just wanted to come check on you. For friends of yours that are showing signs of depression, like isolation, be it that it's self-isolation and that they choose to be isolated, or it's isolation like a girlfriend of mine is on bed rest right now with her pregnancy, can actually make you suffer from depression even if you didn't beforehand. So go check on those people that are isolated, that aren't really getting out, not really talking to anybody. Go check on people who are putting up weird crap on Facebook, then you're like, what is happening here? Those are cries for help. They need you to go back and check on them. Every once in a while when people have somebody that commits suicide in their life, they're like, wow, I saw this like 6 months ago coming and I didn't say anything about it and I should have. Don't let yourself get caught in that moment where somebody does something horrible to themselves and you realize you could have done something back then. But yeah, so just take the time today, phone some friends you haven't talked to in a while, check up on some people, and really make sure they're, I hate to use the word okay, but make sure they're around. Make sure they know you're around. Not just one of those Facebook posts that like, hey, I'm here if you need me. The problem with depression is they figure that they're not worth your help and they won't come to you. The thing with depression is you have to be the one that reaches out to the person that's depressed. Even if that means sort of forcing yourself on them past that self-isolation point and forcing them into it. There are lots of things that do help. Antidepressants absolutely can help, but antidepressants are like anything. It's the right combination and the right dose for the right person. There's no one blanket medication for depression or PTSD or anything along those lines. If you know somebody that's depressed, ask them if they have a plan. They're not going to start formulating a plan because you ask them if they have a plan. But if they say yes, and they have a plan, and they, even especially if they detail it to you, start getting them to a hospital. They need to go see a doctor right now. And they probably may need to be committed for a couple of days to a healthcare facility that's going to A, make sure that they don't commit suicide, B, make sure they get the help that they need to prevent that from happening. Yeah, but break through that isolation, go see them, check and see if they have a plan, and then hang out with them. Antidepressants work, getting him out of the house works. Going over to hang out and have coffee once a week. Even if you know in your brain, like, this is scheduled, I'm going to go every week for a little while just to keep checking and making sure they're okay. They might not know it's every week. That's okay. But do those check-ins and make sure they're getting the help they need. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I'm doing for my own depression in future videos. I just wanted to kind of honor my old supervisor's memory today, and some of my friends who are currently suffering from PTSD. It's not something that's just going to be miraculously fixed. There's not a pill, there's not a course, there's not a thought process to just miraculously take it away. But for those of my friends who are suffering from PTSD, I'm here with you. I'll be checking in with you guys soon too, again. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it today. I just wanted to kind of talk about that. It did derail me a lot more than I think I would like to admit to find out that he committed suicide. I did make it up to his funeral. I blew all my airline miles in getting a flight and a rental car. I flew up the morning of. I flew home the day of to 5 hours after the funeral. And I was there with my EMS family when we said goodbye. There was, I think we said 600, maybe 700 people that showed up to the funeral, and I think over half them were in uniform. He touched so many people in a positive way. So if you're thinking about suicide, if you're depressed, if you are thinking you might be suffering from PTSD, please don't let it take you down the same path. Realize that you are worth it. There are absolutely part of our emergency services family that is going to miss you, never mind your own family. And please go get the help that you need. Reach out. It sucks. It's hard, especially for us emergency services guys, because we're type A personalities. We like to be in charge. We don't want to need help. But sometimes we do. Sometimes we just need to stop and admit, hey, I'm done and I need help. And don't forget to go get it. As much as your brain tells you that you're not worth it, that you don't deserve this help, you do. You absolutely do. Sometimes people just don't realize that you needed it in the first place to reach out. So that's all I'm going to say for today. Thanks everybody very much for watching. I'll update you guys in a couple of days again about what else has been going on this last month and a half. Yeah, and we'll kind of keep it going from there. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later. Okay, bye.